But yeah, I mean, the big one that's coming up next month is GDC. And Ronnie, man, I know you were definitely planning to go. I was
Yeah.
planning to go. Now we've both had some kind of personal and work related things that have come up, which might make it more difficult. But there's also some unforeseen health related issues that have come up, which we are actually not spearheading, or we weren't the ones who actually were thinking this through until a lot of companies actually started dropping out due to the coronavirus. So let me just go through the list here of official ones, and this is as of today via Shack News. So we got EA, Facebook, and Oculus with them, Kojima Productions, Kowloon Knights, and Sony.
Hmm.
So for a gaming conference and specifically a VR conference or the VR portion of the conference, I mean, Oculus and Facebook are a big part of that. I mean, EA on the gaming side, but
Hmm.
we're really focused just on the VR side. And obviously, you got your three somewhat big players in terms of headsets with Valve, Oculus, and then Valve, Oculus, and then HTC, the original. But I mean, with Oculus not showing up, we haven't heard too much about the other companies in terms of Valve and HTC. But I don't know, man. What are your thoughts? To me, obviously, health is a very important concern. Sorry to cut you off. Health is a
No,
very
you're good.
important concern. But what are your thoughts on how this will affect GDC and just the overall conference?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think it will impact GDC. I mean, as far as people already not wanting to really travel so much, and then with those big companies pulling out, I think that would also impact, other smaller companies and smaller individuals. It's already a big monetary investment to come to some of these conferences for certain folks. So I can imagine, it becoming a more difficult decision whether or not you're going to attend the conference when you know that a
Yeah.
lot of the big players aren't going to be there. Particularly with VR, I mean, Oculus has been, a major driving force in the industry. So Oculus not attending the show is a big blow. I'm not sure that they were going to show off new hardware or anything like that, but last year they had a huge presence showing off both the Quest and the Rift S,
Hmm.
and we had we had the chance to check out both of those hardware headsets in advance, as well as a lot of titles through Oculus. So the fact that they're not going to be there this year is a big blow. I'm sure there are a lot of business meetings that happen, and a lot of developers looking forward to meeting with people from Oculus at an event like GDC. So that would be a big blow. Um, the other thing is just the fact that VR requires you to be so up close and personal with other people and headsets and gear and all that sort of thing.
Sharing headsets and all that too.
Yeah, so I think the challenges of, I know GDC is working really hard to make sure that everything is as hygienic as possible. They released a statement stating that they're doing, they're taking all the kind of steps that would be necessary to make it a safe and productive conference. So from their end, it doesn't look like they're slowing down at all. They're ready to go. But from the VR side, like I said, I would just imagine it's a little bit more challenging for some of those individual, developers and smaller teams that might, not be used to having to take all of these heavy precautions.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and looking at us, for example, obviously we're not on the development side, but we're a smaller team here that's trying to grapple with, is this the right move for us? I don't want to misquote it, but something like San Francisco was uh, declaring a state of emergency just to kind of help prepare for this. So this is definitely a serious something serious to be, or not to be taken lightly in a sense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we before we hit record, we were talking about the fact that these companies are probably being overprotective, or
Mm-hmm.
at least kind of going past that. You just don't want to be liable if you're spending, or not spending, if you're sending your employees into a place that may not be safe or could be
Mm-hmm.
potentially hazardous. So I can understand that, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty big conference. You think about the fact that you discovered Beat Saber 2 years ago at GDC, right? And
Yeah.
how like that kind of played into Oculus. And um I don't know, man. It's a really tough situation, and I think this obviously is not special or specific to VR or the VR industry. The coronavirus is definitely affecting a lot of other areas and kind of the whole economy in general. If you look at the stock market the last couple of days, but in terms of this, I mean, do we potentially expect more companies, or would you expect more companies to drop out now that some of the
Yeah.
players have? And if that happens, is GDC a confirmed event that's happening this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I
And of
think we'll have
course,
to wait and see closer to the date, but
of course, we're speculating here. Obviously, I want the conference to succeed, and obviously, Ronnie and I are trying to figure out the best ways for us to still have proper coverage while making sure we're not putting ourselves in that type of position. Again, we will put out an official, I guess, everything virtual announcement on whether or not we will be attending. But as of right now, we are taking these things very seriously, and it's just yeah, it's just something that's kind of making its way across all industries. But obviously, VR and GDC being somewhat impacted since it's what happening in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
mhm.
So yeah, I mean, any other thoughts on that, or have you heard anything else?
No, not specifically. Like I said, I the big news was that Oculus wasn't going to be attending,
Yeah,
and then just with all of these concerns and knowing that we would specifically be covering VR, that you have to take that more into account because
yeah,
we will be putting headsets on. Like a lot of the value of going to a conference like this, besides all of the all of the networking opportunities that you receive and just meeting people, is getting a chance to try things
yeah,
while you're there at the show. And I think that is going to be a little bit more difficult with these kind of concerns. And I think these concerns with a big conference like GDC are just a little bit more. I mean, I know that the U.S. is taking coronavirus seriously on other fronts as well, but when you have a lot of people coming from all over the world to one place, that's a potential situation where something could spread
yeah.
if if
No,
if
100%.
people do happen to come that don't know they're sick. That's one of the things that I think is a little bit is one of the trickiest parts of coronavirus, from what I've heard, is that there's a week or so where someone would be infected without any symptoms.
Yeah, yeah. The
And
incubation
so,
period, right?
yeah, so I don't think anyone would purposely be traveling sick, given all of this kind of information out there, and
Mhm.
people's warning signs being up. But if people don't know that they might be carrying something, and then they go to an event like this,
Yeah.
it could spread pretty quickly potentially. So
Yeah, a lot of, like you said, a lot of close contact, a lot of potential gear sharing. Even the thing is, like, even with the best hygiene practices, sometimes it's tough to make sure or ensure that everything is as clean
yeah.
as it should be. So
But that said, I mean, for people that are going, I mean, I also think that these risks are probably overblown by,
mhm,
if you're a big company, you take the most conservative,
approach.
look at approach at these types of issues. I mean, for small teams, it's probably, especially for individuals that just feel like it's not that big of a deal, they want to go anyways. Like, I'm sure it seems like there's going to be a lot of people there still, from what I can tell. So hopefully those people have a successful conference, and hopefully that their information. I hope something like this just allows. I guess it. I hope that people attending will also realize that people that would have normally attended might not be there,
Mhm.
and for that reason, I hope they take proactive measures to get their messaging out on the internet, out to people that were potentially going to be attending, so that the information's still shared.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, so at the end of the day, from a VR perspective, and obviously what we're focused on here with this show and this podcast, I mean, my hope, all health aside, of course, I hope nobody gets sick or anything. But my hope is that there isn't a long term kind of damper on the industry, just
Hmm.
because this is such a big event, and there's several major conferences like this throughout the year: CES, E3, and then probably Oculus Connect. But GDC is one of the more well known and well attended ones. So it's just one of those things where you never know what connections won't be made by the fact that people aren't going. So,
Yeah,
but at the same time, like, you can't really play those hypotheticals out of like what would happen with what way. I think it's important to respect everybody's decision in terms of what they want to do. But my hope is that it won't put as big of a damper on the growth of the industry and the connections that are usually made at a conference like that.